When people say I don't have time to, let's say, cook a decent meal, or I don't have time to go to the gym, or I don't have time to do this and that, I'm like, you do. You just haven't looked at your schedule.
Right. Or prioritize.
And prioritize and organize your day better.
Absolutely.
You know, and it makes me sad sometimes when I hear parents say that, like, look at my schedule, and they'll show me their calendar. And I'm like, you're right. You have a lot going on. So let's reorganize that. Let's prioritize, because you need to fit in there.
Absolutely.
It can't be all about your kids and your husband and your job. What about you? Because you're not going to show up the best. All right, so welcome everybody.
Welcome.
So today we actually have just TJ and I today. Dr. Robin is doing her little teaching, and so she was not able to join us today, but that's okay. You have TJ and I.
That's right.
And today we are actually talking about something that should be amazing, right? We're going to talk about self-care. However, we're actually kind of debunking some of the myths and things that they tell us to do that I think society has really told us to do. Like, you know, for instance, how many times have you heard, I need a glass of wine, or I need, I need to go out, or I need to, whatever it is. It could be something that people, I think, have changed what it was supposed to be. So and it could be turning into something toxic. So, for instance, the first thing that comes to mind is I need to go have a glass of wine, or I need to go out for a drink. That can turn into a really bad cycle.
Absolutely.
And I know some of the best professionals, some of the most highly respected people who have gone down that path that's turned into a toxic self-care. So what do you think, TJ?
I think when I think of self-care, and especially being a therapist now from what it used to be, self-care is more about bringing peace into your life and not perfection. Like sometimes we view self-care as we have to check the boxes. We have to check the boxes. But for me, self-care is a lifestyle. It's not, checking boxes, make sure you've had that glass of wine, or make sure you haven't had more than 2 glasses, or the bubble baths. It's so much more than the bubble baths, or, getting the massages. Those things are very important, but it's more of, when you wake up in the mornings, how are you going to claim the peace for your day? Not, how perfect you're going to be, or, things like that. But you said something when you were talking about, it can become toxic. I think that if you look at it from a mindset of perfection, it can become toxic. And then if you are, as you just spoke about the glass of wine, like you have to have a glass of wine, and then that turns into other things, you can start coping in a negative way, right? Or, it leads to other things, unhealthy things. Right. So I think that self-care starts in the mind first. It starts in the mind, and then it manifests in other ways, but it starts in the mind. How do you want your self-care package to look like?
Oh, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Self-care package.
Absolutely.
So putting it in a
because
package.
They're different. Yours is different from mine.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And you said one thing too that made me think is the perfection. And I think that's what we as a society has kind of put on ourselves, is this idea of what, we have to be perfect.
Right.
And that also creates that toxic mindset for ourselves. And it can kind of ruin what we think we're trying to accomplish.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And then we look at others, and their self-care package looks amazing at times. And we're we think that we're not doing it right. And I know because, personally speaking, I've looked at other people. I'm like, wow, they take care of the kids. They get that exercise in. They're eating right, and they're doing all the things right. I must be doing something wrong. And, again, being a therapist and, of course, being more seasoned, I've learned, no, those packages are going to look different, and we show up different as it relates to self-care. And I look at it too, it 4 components. We're made up of 4 parts. There's 4 layers to us. You have the mind, you have the body, you have the relationships, and then you have the physical aspects of self-care. So you have to kind of look at all 4 of those layers and incorporate under those layers what you want your self-care to look like. And then if you focus on that, you won't be so easily focused on somebody else's and think you're not doing it right. Right? So it's an
Absolutely.
individual plan, like a treatment plan. It's an individual
There
plan.
you go. We're
Yeah.
using it as a treatment plan. I like
Absolutely.
that. So
Absolutely.
self-care package, like you should be like the self-care guru over here, you know?
Right.
And that's the thing is like when we're trying to help others,
Mhm.
right? Like, you know, let's say just turn their lives around or help them like on this journey that they, you know, have gone off on and or things are not looking the way they want in their
Mhm.
life. But like we have to also check ourselves.
Right.
You know, that's my biggest thing is checking ourselves is are we doing all the right things? So when it comes to self-care, you know, sometimes when we're really stressed out, are we choosing to show up the right way? Are we choosing the right types of care that is going to help rejuvenate us in the right way? So sometimes, like you said, like everyone is different. So does somebody need a massage? Does somebody just need some time off? Does somebody just need some alone time? Like everyone kind of needs something different, maybe at different points in their lives.
Right.
Like I know for me, like a lot of times, like I like my alone time. And so sometimes I have to verbalize that like to my family and my kids because they're like, everyone's depending on me. You know, at work, everyone depends on me, right?
Been pulled in all these
Exactly. And it's like sometimes I have to be like, you know what? I need my time.
Yep.
And instead of doing something unhealthy, like I'm going to go to a bar tonight, I'm going to go party it up, or I'm going to go drink a bottle of wine, I have to mentally choose, okay, what do I really need? What do I really need to rejuvenate myself? I need to go just spend the day, I don't care, window shopping, just do something alone. And I think that's why it worries me sometimes, this toxic, you know, self-care culture that I think is out there. And then again, like looking at it, like, are we comparing ourselves to other people? Like you said, like people are all working out and they look like they're eating right. And what are they feeding their kids? And they're like, you know, if you think about even like moms, we do that to ourselves
Of
as
course.
moms. Oh my gosh. I see so many parents even now, like, oh, they make their little bento boxes, you know?
It's so neat.
I know. And it's like, great. I'm glad that these stay-at-home moms can do that, or even working moms, like they can get it all together. But like, that's where it can be like, dang, I must be doing something wrong.
Right,
I give
right.
my kid $2 and say, go fend for yourself.
Like we're having McDonald's tonight because mama's not cooking.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not the healthiest, but you know, again, that comparison spirit is like, it definitely is like big in today's society.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, you know, I mean, I go to the gym sometimes and I'm looking at people like, oh my God, like they really have it together. And then I look at me and I'm like, hey, I'm here. You know, that's a start, because especially from, you know, coming from somewhere, it's like, no, I'm not going to the gym. No. So when I go, it's like, okay, I'm showing up for me. And what can I do to make a healthier me, you know, physically and mentally? So, you know, I've already debunked I don't have to look like that person. I don't have, my self-care package is not set up like that, but it works for me.
There you go.
You know, like today, I may need more mental clarity than I do the physical aspects of, like you said, you know, we choose what's best for us. Like, how can I show up today? Where am I depleted? Because oftentimes, you know, we can be so focused in one area of self-care that we are feeling depleted in another.
Right.
So listening, like even like checking in with yourself, like do a self check-in in the mornings and go, okay, what is it that I need today? And how can I show up in that area to actually make sure I'm getting that first before you start to, you know, especially as therapists, before you start your sessions. I shared that with another therapist this morning. I said, look, it really does feel good when you show up, you know, 15, 20 minutes early. Set your atmosphere in your room. You know, set it for the good things that you want to happen in your room. What are you going to provide for your clients? Who's on your schedule? Look at it. Where can you show up? What can you offer? But you can't do that until you actually sit in with yourself and say, what do I need today while I'm giving these things to my clients, or giving these things to my spouse or my kids, or, you know, my coworkers or my colleagues. So sitting in and just listening to yourself, you know, you'll learn a lot about yourself, and you'll learn the areas that you're depleted in so that you can refill and refuel.
Absolutely.
You know?
Refill and refuel. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. You know, and it made me think too, like about like checking out like what your package looks like, you know, and what you'll need at certain times. So if you're really, really stressed out, let's say at home, okay, what do you think is going to refuel you?
Right.
if you're like things are at mess at home or you got a lot of different, things going on at home. Okay, what do I need in order to be the best person to help solve the situation and show up the best person versus at work, um, that may need a shift. It may look different. What do I need? Do I just need a few days off? Do I need a little mini vacation? And that's why I know I am so big on taking little mini vacations is because for me, I need to, I work because I own the business. I have to work 24/7. My mind is always going. So in order to check out of that, I have to get out of the environment.
You do.
And it's the only way that I can be like, okay, I'm refreshed now. I'm good. I checked out mentally. And because if I'm at home and I'm sitting on the couch and relaxing, that is my self-care for like home.
Right.
If I'm stressed out at home, I can sit on the couch and veg and do my nails and like watch some, Sex in the City.
Right.
That is okay for me. But I know that in the back of my head, I'm still checking emails.
Yeah.
I'm still doing this. But if I'm on vacation, I'm checking it with intention. So if I have to bring my laptop, which I always do, okay, from these times to these times, I'm going to check my...
Right. That's good.
Yes.
So you set up like these little time spaces where you could actually dedicate to that.
Yes. And that's what I do. I'm like, okay, I'm only going to do it this time. Nothing's pressing, and it's just, like I said, one of those things. And I notice that, as we get older and, I know other people can identify with this, is that some people are in different periods and their lives look differently.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So they have more time to do other things. Like, I have some friends who literally probably a couple nights a week can go out and like, have some cocktails and that's where they are in their life. And that is what they do.
Right.
And we get invited to that all the time. I'm like, that's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to refuel me. It won't fill me at all. So I just choose not to.
And that's okay.
And it's okay. I have to say that, but then I get pulled sometimes like, oh, you never go out, or oh, you're acting so old. I get that all the time. You're so old. You're so old.
Don't give in. Don't give in.
No, I don't, because I know where that leads.
Absolutely.
I know that if I go and I go and say, okay, I'll have like one margarita. No, it's going to turn into 2 or 3 probably because of the type of environment I'm in. And I'm like, then I'm going to not feel good.
Right. So part of self-care is saying no too.
Yes.
It's a boundary, but it's also, part of self-care.
Yes.
No, I can't, or no, I choose not to, and own that and stick with it, because sometimes we do get roped in. And, I'm always thinking like when things like that happen, I'm always thinking, okay, what's going to happen after the fact? Like you said, like, where's that going to lead? And then by the time I get home, is that going to be like productive for me or what? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm always thinking about, okay, what's going to happen after this? And that helps solidify my no.
Yes, absolutely. And this also made me think too, is like, I know so many moms that say they don't have time. They don't have time. And I always have to argue against that. I'm like, because we make time for what we feel is a priority.
Yes, we do.
And I get it. Our lives are busy, unfortunately, with the culture that we have, it's like work, 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 kids, 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 we do that. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as parents. But when people say I don't have time to, let's say, cook a decent meal, or I don't have time to go to the gym, or I don't have time to do this and that, I'm like, you do. You just haven't, put your, like, really kind of looked at your schedule.
Right. Or prioritize.
And organize your day better.
Absolutely.
And it makes me sad sometimes when I hear parents say that, like, look at my schedule, and they'll show me their calendar. And I'm like, you're right. You have a lot going on. So let's reorganize that. Let's prioritize, because you need to fit in there.
Absolutely.
It can't be all about your kids and your husband and your job. You got to, what about you? Because you're not going to show up the best.
Absolutely. I love that.
You will not show up the best mom, the best wife, the best worker if you're not taking care of yourself.
And what sets in? Resentment, discontentment, like all of those things start to set in, like and then you start to, it breeds a negative mindset.
Yep.
And now you're no good to yourself. And I always say, I'm not going to put myself on the back burner to please other people, satisfy other people, come to other people's rescue. I think everybody needs boundaries, of course. And even though my boundaries may look different from somebody else's, I'm not going to be, feel guilty for my boundaries, because I know myself. And if I'm not the best version of who I am every day, somebody's going to get it's not going to be good.
Somebody's going to get it.
Somebody's going to get it.
Mhm.
Somebody somewhere, it doesn't matter where you show up, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
And they don't deserve it. And vice versa. You don't deserve it. They should set their boundaries. They should prioritize their self-care, because, we have to learn how to, especially in our groups, love on each other, show up positive and all those things. But you can't do that if you have not done the work on the back end.
Mhm.
And that's how I look at it. Like, even part of my self-care is, my spirituality.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to meditate. Like, I have to. When I wake up in the mornings, my first thing is I thank God for just allowing me to open my eyes, be in my right mind and do the things that I need to do on a regular basis, because I know it's not me,
Mhm.
So that's the first thing I do. I know people's look different, but that's the first thing I do. And then I'll sit and say, okay, well, what do I really need today? What do I need to do today? What do I need today? And where do I need to show up? And what space do I need to show up in?
Mhm.
First thing is like, yep, I got to go to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my next biggest space. You got your family, and then,
Mhm.
well, first you got your individual self.
Right.
Then you have your family. Then you have, your work or your careers or whatever, and then of course your spiritual life and all those things, it comes in there too. But, just creating that self-care package for you, designed just for you, and not allowing anybody else or anything else to, like, contaminate that or try
Mhm.
to come up against that. You have to stand with that no. Like, no, I can't, or
Yep.
it doesn't fit in my schedule, which is different from I don't have time for.
Right.
Right? So that's different. And when we say we don't have time for, like you said, the first thought I had was, how important is it to you? When you
Yeah.
say I don't have time for this, how important is it to you? Or maybe you do need, just a little, like prioritizing your schedule. Like, you need help with that, because I help my clients with that as well.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, no, list your priorities, and you don't always have to show up the same way every day. Like you
Mhm.
said, it's going to require, your self-care package may require something different the next day. But if you don't sit with yourself, you're not going to know that. And you're just going to go on a whim. And
Yep.
then you're going to feel like everything's like coming at you real fast.
And I think too, like, you get burnt out. And I know people
Oh,
have heard
yes.
burnt out. Okay, yeah, you can get burnt out with your job, but you can also get burnt out as a parent. You can get burnt
Oh, yeah.
out as a spouse. Like, you'll get burnt out by whatever you're pouring maybe too much into and not
Mhm.
enough into yourself.
Oh, yes. That's true.
So you pour too much out of yourself and you're not replenishing that, refueling that. That's when you start to lose. And I've been there, and I'm sure you have too. But
Mhm.
like, I've been in that position before. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am burnt out. Like, and I don't even have like a specific thing that I could say,
Right.
this area, work or the kids or whatever. But I know that when I have tipped out, I've completely depleted myself and I haven't refueled, anybody who's around me in that moment,
They're going to get it.
they're getting it. Whether it's my husband, whether
Yeah.
it's, my kids,
Mhm.
normally not at work, but always one of those two
Yeah.
become, and like, my kids always check me. They're like, Mom, you're in a really crappy mood. Like, I don't know what is wrong with you.
Mine do too.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, okay, same
Yeah.
thing with my husband, but like, so it's so important to like making sure that we are
Yeah.
putting that as a priority, and it doesn't need to be something where, and that's what I mean, we created like, okay, you have to go get massages, or you have to go, spend a lot of money and go on vacations. It does not have to do that. Like, what else? Like, okay, I get it. You don't have maybe the time off. Maybe your PTO is not there. You don't have the time off, or you don't have a babysitter because you don't have kids. Okay, well, what can you do?
Go on a walk. Take a nature walk.
Something.
Something like watch a movie, something that's comical that'll
Mhm.
get you,
Comedy is a
laughing.
big one for
Ooh,
me.
yes, me too.
It was funny when I've had a really rough day and Brandon and I don't know what to watch on TV. I'm like, Brandon, just put on something funny. I don't care if we
Yep.
watch it 100 times. Just put on one of those dirty, raunchy movies. I don't care, that make me laugh, and we'll do it.
Yep.
So,
Or I watch like the little reels or whatever, and I'm like,
oh yes,
some of this stuff is so stupid. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
why it's funny, because it's stupid.
it's so dumb. Yeah,
Yeah.
or like the Jersey Shore. Brandon makes fun of me, but I still watch it just because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I just can live in that moment of seeing how crazy people's lives are. It makes you kind of feel
Right.
better. Makes you feel better.
Right.
But-
So I mean, don't feel bad when you're not meeting other people's expectations of what self-care looks like. Choose your own package. Do A, B, or C. make it work for you,
Make
you
it
know?
work. And sometimes you need to put pen to paper.
Right, absolutely.
And say like, okay, so when I'm really stressed at work, what can I do? Maybe talk to your boss. If you have you should have a boss that you can go to and be like, look, like I'm really stressed. I'm not liking coming to work every day. Like that's always a big thing for me. Like I don't ever want anybody to get to a point they're like, I hate coming to work.
Right.
Because that's not there's something that's got to change, whether it's with you or maybe your environment, who you're working for. But seeing like does that mean you need to go on a 15-minute coffee break to go grab a coffee?
True. Yeah.
Does that mean that you just need to go on a walk around your building? Because I know people who do that too, can just go on a walk and need just some fresh air. Like, okay, do that. There's got to be something that you can do in each area of your life, depending on if you have a spouse. Okay, let's say you have a spouse and say, you know what? Twice a week, I'm not cooking dinner. You can either cook or you were ordering out. Like 2 days a week, I'm not doing 5 days a week anymore. Like there's something that I think can shift in everybody's lives. And I think we've all been there to where something needs to change. And it may not look different. It may look different from 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Oh, yeah.
So checking in on yourself.
Seasons change.
People
change.
Mm-hmm.
What your self-care needs change.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you talked about the kids a lot too. Well, once those kids get older, like my son's 19 now, and it's like I have like this time on my hand in another area, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing what I did just 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that self-care is going to look different.
Yeah, we're in the same season with that because our youngest.
And I'm taking it all in too.
Yes,
like I'm pouring in like more where I felt like, I had to shift those self-care responsibilities where, I'm learning now. I'm like, okay, well, it's kind of quiet over here now that I'm not responsible for this. So I'm just going to add a little bit more self-care, to my package. So, it looks different. Like you said, the older we get, it changes. Seasons change, people change, our needs change, and that's okay.
Yep.
We just have, again, knowing yourself, you'll know, in what season you need to change and shift some things
aren't
around.
working. I always say that, like if something's not working, you got to change it.
Yeah.
So, and that comes to, with our self-care packages, how they look. Like it's funny because you and I are in that same boat with our youngest are now like out, in college or out of high school. So it's like, we're not really responsible for little people anymore. So, and for me, like what I've been doing is kind of like shifting a lot of that responsibility to my 18-year-old. I'm like, all right, you know what? Mom used to be like, I was always, taking her everywhere, making sure everything was good with school, making sure this was done. I'm like, you know what? There's a number for that. Google it. Google it. Like, call your school, call whatever. Cause I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be a little selfish. So right now, like I'm a little bit of my selfish, like, because I'm like, I want some of that responsibility not on myself anymore.
Absolutely.
And although, I have my husband, like he wasn't the biological father of him. So like I felt in a sense I've been a single parent because of my two kids, because they've been only dependent on me. Like solely dependent on me, and it did drain me. And I noticed that like as this time was like as my daughter was shifting out of high school, I'm like, man, this drained me being like 100% responsible for my kids because I didn't have that support system, and it has drained me. So I'm like, now it's time. Like I have to mentally check out of that.
Replenish.
So it's time for me to replenish.
I like that.
I need to replenish.
She needs to be hydrated.
I need to be hydrated. and you know what? You're right. Speaking of changing seasons, like I probably need to adjust my self-care now. Yeah. Like I haven't
You need
adjusted.
a new package.
I need a new package.
Yeah.
TJ, you're going to have to tell me, what is my package going to look like now? I got to figure that out.
More of what you want it to look like.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's too, because I think sometimes when people self-care, like when you just think of the word self-care, for some people they cringe. They cringe. They're like, I don't have self-care. But sometimes we can have self-care. We're doing self-care and not even realizing it. Sometimes we are, and we're not really realizing it. And of course, we have to be, let's be more aware. But so I would say for people who struggle with just even hearing the word self-care, there are some things that you're already doing. You just need to be, maybe it needs to be more intentional or more consistent. But you're already doing some of those things. And again, it's not just, taking a long bubble bath. That's part of it. That does help, because I know I cleaned like over the weekend and my body was like, ugh. So all I wanted was a long bath, like nice soft music, nice candles and bath. And that helped. But that's not what self-care is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Self-care is, again, taking care of that mental part, that physical part, that spiritual part, or whatever parts that are important to you that that's important for you to show up in.
Yeah.
So, but don't let the word self-care scare you,
Yeah.
you know?
And just think, and too, you made a good point, like it's mind, body, and spirit. So which you may be doing really good with your mind and body, but what about your spirit?
Right.
Or you may be really good with your spirit, but what about your mind?
Right.
So that is really true too, because I know that sometimes I lack in some areas and I'm like, okay, I haven't really focused more on my spiritual. So I really need to work on that. Or, okay, I've been letting my body go, a little bit, or I'm not eating right or something, and I'm like, okay, I got to shift. So.
Right. Right. It's called and when you said something, I thought about this and I actually visualized it. Self-care chart. And if you take just a little, like a square, and you, of course, put it in 4 parts, and you can put those little, like your spirit, mind, body, soul in those parts, and then look at those 4 parts and say, okay, where am I showing up the best as it relates to however you want to show up? And then what area do I feel depleted in? Because if you see it, right,
Yeah, that
in the
visual.
paper, right? If you see it, then it may help you to, start to replenish in that area. Like if you look at the spiritual aspects of it, or emotional and spiritual aspects of it, you're like, you know what? I really haven't really been meditating, or I really haven't showed up in this space for a while. I really need to get back to that. Because that happened to me at one point.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I was so focused on all the other things like work, the kids, the husband, making sure the house is clean, making sure dinner's on the stove. And my spirituality was like tanking. And I'm like, I didn't feel that connection. And that's important too, feeling that connection in all the areas of your self-care. And so I was like, nope, I gotta take time and I have to focus here, because out of I always call it like, to make 100%, you got every area is 25%. So that 25% of my spirituality is like at like 5%. So what do I need to do to get that back to where it needs to be? Well, I need to focus. I need to read more, and put those things back into me.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
And I like that you put it like that. I think other people can think about that, like putting it as a visual. The four quadrants. I like that a lot.
Quadrants. That's it.
Yes, I like it. So
fancy words.
yes,
I like that.
Well, I really enjoyed this today, TJ. I think this was a really good episode. So thank you all for joining, and don't forget, actually use those quadrants that she says. So all right, take care.
All right, bye-bye.